What's up, dude?
What's up, Matt?
How are you, man?
Good.
Sorry
How
I
about
was late.
yourself? No, it's all good.
Man.
It's all good. I hit record this time.
There we go.
You know,
That's right. We missed it.
yeah, we were in like 20 minutes last time, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot to hit record. And then I was like, you know what? I learned my lesson. I'm never, ever gonna do that again. And then I did it again.
And did it again the next time. Yeah, totally.
I did.
Yeah.
No, I did it again. I actually did it with another guest, like a half an hour in.
Oh, dude, we did a show a couple weeks ago. I flew to another state to record TV stuff, and they didn't hit record in the studio, and we spent like 4 hours.
Wow.
Doing lines, and it was not recorded, and we were like, don't we need that? Didn't have it. Anyway,
Well,
all right, cool. We're recording?
We're recording. So now, are we going to pretend it's February, or are we
just say we're recording early.
Okay. All right, cool.
No need.
I'll be like, oh man, it's so cold.
Oh, it's so cold. I mean, look,
it is cold.
My deal, you know me. Let's just have a conversation and somehow get a book plug in. Like, you don't need to. You know, your podcast is your podcast.
First of all, thank you for coming back. You were like a surprise, really fun guest, and I really enjoyed having you on. You're one of my favorites. And when I got the email saying that you wanted to come back on, I was so excited that I didn't really read the email. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was like, oh wow, he wants to come back on, and I was like, that's why I scheduled it for November when it was supposed to be for February.
Oh, I'm doing like one a week right now. It's crazy how many people are
that's great.
pre-recording. Oh yeah, I'm doing
Awesome.
I'm doing like 4 or 5 podcasts a week right now. It's crazy. That'll all come out like between January and March. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're here to talk about the new book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. And the little tagline on the cover there. You got the cover? There we go.
I got it. There it is.
Declutter, downsize, and move forward with your life.
Yeah. It's a little different. It's, you know, it's weird even plugging a book, but it's my 20 years of experience wrapped up in a partnership with AARP, which I'm sure is not a group that you get a lot on your podcast, but it's the right audience. You know, it's for people that need to get rid of their stuff. And, you know, half my clients are hoarders and the other half are just people that have too much stuff. And they've been living in a house for 50, 60 years. And I kept getting all these questions like, well, what do you do with this? What do you do with that? How do you do this? And finally I was like, all right, last year in the pandemic, I was like, let's just write this thing. Yeah. And so I sat down and really put it down, you know, to pen. And it's pretty cool. It's my a 9-step process of how I declutter and how I clean. And then it goes through, like, each chapter has a story, a really funny, crazy story from a family that I've helped.
Right. I actually got to read it.
Oh, good.
I was lucky enough to read it. Yeah. I got a digital copy of it. First things first, as someone who like struggles with reading comprehension, like I can read any book, but it takes me a long time sometimes to get through a book because I have to reread it.
Yeah.
This book is easy. It's just like talking to you. Very, very relatable.
It's
very down to earth.
Conversational. Yes,
very conversational. Very easy read. It never preaches or judges. It just offers great advice. Things you would normally not even think of, really, and that just simply makes sense. You could actually use in many aspects of your life.
I think so.
You know,
I've failed. You know, we talked last week. I failed so much. You know, that like I think these accidentally end up being like kind of success trips too. That like you just kind of success tips you just trip over. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. You know, I never meant to do all this stuff. Like, I was just trying to eat, man. You know, trying to get beer money and pay my bills.
No, we went over that in the last show. Like, how did you get into all this stuff? And you're like, you know, it just happened.
Hey, by the way, I still keep thinking about this. I get ideas every day. I still think you need to do a barbershop podcast studio.
Yeah.
And I thought of the name today. Barely Cutting It would be the name of the podcast studios.
That is phenomenal.
I'm telling you, people
That's
would
a
come
great
in,
idea.
Man. I've been thinking about it. I was like, ever since we did the podcast, I was like, dude, he should just have an open studio, like a collective where people can come in and do podcasts. Yeah. And then you cut hair at the front. I'm telling you, man. People would show.
Essentially, I could do it here. I mean, I have both things in my garage, you know.
You were cutting during this pandemic, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, during like the shutdown when it was like really serious and no one knew what was happening. No, I wasn't, because I didn't know what to do. You know, I was like, I don't want to get busted. I don't want to get in trouble. You know, I don't know. But so now
that became a big deal in my world, the senior living world. These old ladies got to get their hair done.
Right.
and there all these like hairdressers started opening up like these bootleg shops in their garage. And like it was like it was like prohibition, with
Yeah.
getting their hair tinted blue, like it was
Yep.
crazy.
You
And
know.
I would hear about all these women like, well, I'm getting my hair done tomorrow, but don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And it was like they wouldn't even like see their grandchildren
Yeah.
for like
No.
a year, but they were getting their hair done on Thursdays.
Yeah, women in their hair, and you know what, guys in their hair too, because like I have weekly clients.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks goes by during this pandemic and they're fucking freaking out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're calling me. I'm like, and I'll be honest with you. Yeah, of course I cut some of my close people. But it was tough. It was tough for a while. I was like, I really can't. I don't know if I should, but
yeah. I had all my work I canceled, right?
Yeah.
Like everything. And so that's when I was like, well, crap, maybe it's time to write this book. And I called my agent and she's like, well, you've had worse ideas. Like, put an idea together, put an outline, and let me know.
I think it's a great idea. Obviously we met before on the podcast. And I know your voice. I hear your voice when I'm reading the words.
Yeah.
It's literally like having you in the room while reading this. If you are going through a situation like this, you know what I mean, in your life. So I think it's important.
Let's talk about this. So downsizing, if you got, most of us, your listeners, you got a mom that is downsizing in the next 5-10 years, right? She's been in the house 30 years. We got to go through it. Right. And they think that you want all their stuff. And the reality is you don't. You want like 10 items. And so there's a lot of tips in here that kind of walks you through like, what do you need to, like, how do you get started? How do you get mom to let go of some things? How do you tell mom you don't want this stuff? And then for some people, they're just basically just need to declutter. They just got too much crap. And so it takes a lot of advice from that too.
Right. I mean, even if you're not a hoarder, the average person just has so much stuff. Like I wouldn't consider myself a hoarder. But if I were to move, it would be a daunting task.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of stuff.
So I moved a year ago, in fact, this week. And that ends up making it into the book because I have preached all this advice my whole life, 20 years at least, adult life. But it's a little different when you got to follow your own lessons. And I started cleaning up my house and I was like holding on to stuff. I'm like, why am I holding, like, if this was on TV, I would be telling this lady to get rid of it. And here I am, I can't let go of it. And so I kind of just basically like turned it back on myself. And I was like, all right, I gotta follow my own advice. And I think I said last time, my wife where I live now in Georgia is a minimalist. And so I had to get rid of about 80% of my stuff.
Wow.
And that was hard. That was really hard.
Yeah. And that sounds, I wouldn't say crazy, but it's interesting coming from you who makes a living doing this. Right.
Yeah.
But it's not junk. It's just your things, right? Your tools, your clothes. The book really focuses on what's worth holding on to and what to get rid of, especially with sentimental value attached to it. Never mind all the tools and all the clothes.
I try to focus more instead of saying like, what are we getting rid of? And you said it well there. Like I first started, what are we going to keep versus what do we get rid of? Because everybody immediately like, well, let's just get rid of everything. And that's not realistic. And so I really try to focus on just a few things that you really, 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 really matter. And then focus, okay, then we're going to donate, then we're going to sell, and then we're going to trash. Right. And then, so in that order is actually on purpose because I want to make sure people know, like, it doesn't have to be as hard as it sounds. And your listeners are probably thinking, why the hell are we talking about stuff? Dude, if you're not going through it now, you will be going through it in the next 10 years, no matter how old you are. Yep. And I mean, 80, more than, was it 10,000 people a day turn 65 for the next 20 years.
Whoa.
Oh, I got a train coming right in front of my house. Give me 30 seconds.
That's all good. I got a question about that.
Okay. Did people ask about it on the podcast?
What's that?
Did someone ask about the train on the podcast?
No. My wife the other day, we were watching a movie or a TV show. I forgot what it was. And she says to me, I would love to live near a train. She says she finds the sound relaxing, the vibration. Oh, tell me, how is it?
She's not wrong. I mean, the horn is annoying. The horn is like, The horn is definitely loud. Like
Right.
we have a pool, and so like the horn like jumps our house and like ricochets off the pool, and it is like, I mean, it is crazy loud in the backyard, louder than it is in the house.
Right.
But you only hear it when you're like a certain level of awake, and
Yeah.
so like, I mean, it's 26 times a day this train goes by our
Wow.
house, and you only hear it from like 7 to like 10:30, but like once I'm in bed, I don't even hear it.
Is that a legit number? 26?
26 times.
Did you count, or was it like?
No, it's a schedule. We had some kid,
Okay.
like we're on this like old historic track in Georgia, and so like there's people that like come. It's kind of funny because there's like sightseers that come here, and they're here just to see the train. And
Wow.
people are looking for this train, and they're like they're following an app, and they're looking at it, and then like I'll just be walking by because it's like my front yard. And like the other day, someone's like, "Hey, sir, do you know when the train?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I think it's here in like the next 8 minutes." And she's like, "Wait a minute, you that guy from Hoarders?" And I'm like, "Sure." And she's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here to see the train, just like you, because I don't want people to know where I live, you know." And so,
Sure,
like,
sure.
It's hilarious. I mean, like there are, especially on the weekends, like people are here constantly for these trains, and then like every once in a while there'll be like a circus train will go by, which is really cool, or like when a military train goes by, it's like a mile long, and it's just all this military surplus coming by, tanks and stuff. And so, you know, I got 6 boys, and 6 boys under 12, and so they go nuts, man. Like we'll just sit on the front porch and watch the train go by, and we'll waste a half an hour. It's like watching TV. We'll waste a half hour, and it's cool from like a dreaming standpoint, because like my kids will be like, "I wonder where that train's going."
Yeah.
You know, and we're like, well, I don't know, man. Maybe we should jump on the train and find out. You know, and like it gets them like excited about adventure.
Sure.
And, you know, and so like that part actually I really dig.
Yeah.
You know, because especially my youngest. My youngest will sit there in bed, and his bed is positioned so that we can literally watch the train go by in bed.
That's cool.
And
That's cool.
We'll turn all the lights off, and the kids will just watch. It's so cool. And so like for me, it's, you know, as a parent, like it's actually a really good tool to get kids dreaming, which is really, really cool.
That's a really cool way to look at it, and would have never thought about it like that. When she
it's
said that to
loud
me,
as shit. It's still
yeah,
loud as shit.
yeah, it's still.
I mean, that's, you know, it's still really loud.
But it wouldn't wake you up out of your sleep, you would say.
No.
Okay.
You don't hear it at all at night, but it is. We are now watching Game of Thrones. My wife, I found out last year my wife had never seen Game of Thrones.
Oh, she has to see
And
that.
I'm like, what? Wait a minute, what? So we started it over.
Yeah.
And so we watch it every night, and I got to tell you, watching it second time, a lot more stuff makes sense. But
yes,
a lot more. You're like, what? That's his dad? Like I had no idea all these people, you know. And but the train, like it's such a quiet show. You have to watch it.
Yes.
And so like I watch TV with the subtitles on all the time.
Oh wow.
Mainly because of the trains, and because of the trains coming. So literally, I watch everything with a subtitle.
But yeah, as far as Game of Thrones goes, because I'm a huge fan. And I'm not going to say anything because if your wife watches it, you know, by this time this comes out, maybe
we'll be done. We're going to finish
be done.
up. We're on season 6.
Well, let me ask you what you thought of the ending. That everyone was very, you know, it was controversial.
Yeah. You know, for me, it's one of the top 5 shows ever, I think, and you can't take away from that. I compare it to Sopranos, which I'd also put in the top 5, and we all hated the ending at the time.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, now sitting on it is a brilliant ending. Right?
Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. It's one of the best shows ever made.
Yeah.
And I still wonder. I mean, like I go back and forth. I was like, I don't know. Did he get killed? Did he? And then and I just saw that interview.
Yes.
And he did, and I was like, no. Right? And so like that was last month when I saw the interview, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I was wrong half of the last 5 years, you know. And like, but like that's a good show, right? And so like, I don't know. I got 2 things. I mean, I didn't love 7, but I mean, the hype was so big. Like, could you ever live? I mean, I don't know who would have, unless the main guy wrote it. I also think it would not surprise me in a year or 2 if we find out that they just remade it. I mean, like, and I think we'd all be like, okay, cool.
I mean, the season was clearly rushed. You know, there was problems with like Starbucks coffee cups and water bottles in the scenes.
I know.
It was rushed. They were on a tight schedule, and time didn't make sense. Like in other seasons, it took them a whole season to get somewhere, and in this season, it took them an episode to get somewhere. But all in all, I think it had really great moments. I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything here.
I don't hate the show,
but the dragon and stuff like that stuff was incredible. Those scenes were mind blowing.
When that, that one, yes, and then like I don't know. There's a lot of really strong women in that show. If you realize, when you really sit back and watch, now I got a daughter, you're like, oh wait a minute, like there's some really badass women in the show, and that held true the whole way. And and it's funny though, like now rewatching it, you realize, wait a minute, like everything in that ending, it was all they basically led up to it. I mean, there's nothing that was really that out of the blue. Yeah. I mean, you know, when the girl turned out like her father, let's be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, don't we all? You know, I think how far-fetched it was. I mean, I don't think it was.
Right. Good. I think a lot of people forgot while watching it when it was airing. Yeah. You know, 6 years ago. You got to remember these characters and their development, and you forget about it. But if you're binge watching it, you realize, okay, yes.
Well, look, I mean, not to get political, we all want our politicians to be better than they actually are, right? And is that any different? No. You know, I mean, I'm simplifying a lot here, but you know, but it was like, man, I don't know, man. I love the show.
It's watching one of my favorites.
Watching my wife watch Red Wedding was like one of the top 10 moments for me. I mean, to watch her mouth just drop. Yeah. You know, because I told her, I warned her on the first episode. I go, don't get attached to anybody.
I
go, because the more you love them, they are going to die. Right. I promise you. Like, it's not a matter of if, it's just when.
Yeah, even in the first season, you know, the main character, you're like,
oh, I know. Well, please. One night she goes, please tell me Joffrey dies. I go, you won't even care about Joffrey in about 3 weeks. And I go, trust me. And I go, there's someone much worse. She's like, what? How could you hate someone worse than Joffrey? And I'm like,
worst.
Oh, just wait.
Worst and television.
Yeah, that worst villain ever. Yep. That guy, I saw him on a movie the other day, and it took me forever to realize it was him, because he's had to change almost his face because he got so hated.
Yes.
Like, he couldn't do anything else. He was in that Motley Crue documentary on Netflix. Did you see that?
The Dirt?
The Dirt, yeah. He is the old guitarist. He's like the old guy that's guitarist. Yes. And it took me like 2 hours to figure out that was him. And he had glasses and long hair on the whole movie. Yeah. Because I don't think he could find any work.
Even Joffrey, when he's a young kid, you know? Yeah. He would get threats, like people want to punch him in the face when he's walking down the street. It's an act, it's a role. But
he might as well stop working. I mean, no one's gonna get him. Anyway, I digress. I can talk about Game of Thrones. We'll do a third episode just about Game of Thrones.
We should do that. I love that. All right. So before the train came along and we talked about Game of Thrones for a while, we were talking about the book. You were talking about an order to the book, a system that you put into place.
It's pretty simple, honestly. Like, first thing I want to know what's the finish line? Like, what's your goal? And there's so many of us, we just start cleaning because we're like overwhelmed with the stuff and we just want to get motivated. So we start cleaning, but we don't know what we're doing. Are you moving? Are you just cleaning out a house, like a room for a baby, for a nursery? Or are you trying to clear out a space to make a man cave? Like, I don't care what your answer is, but I want to be really clear. What's your destination? Like, what's the finish line? Right. And then what's the motivation, the why? And this is what's important because you're going to laugh. Downsizing is a lot like, decluttering is a lot like losing weight. And like right now, I'm working out a lot trying to lose weight, and I've lost 10 pounds. And I did it with my son. My sons really cornered me the other day. Basically, they were like I eat like shit, and they know it. And they basically were like, you're always telling us we got to make good choices, and like you don't make good choices on your food. And it was like, oh. And then one of them just said, finally, goes, look, your dad died when you were 25. Like, are you gonna be a grandpa? Like, we don't have a grandpa, and we really want you to be here. And like we were on a walk, and my kids like are putting me into the ground, like basically like, dude, if you're gonna die, this, like what, you know? And then finally, my son was like, you can't tell us all to do all this stuff if you don't do this. Right. My 12-year-old son like called me out on my total like he's like, you're telling us to be good sons, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a dad. So anyway, point of that is like I put my why. I want to be a grandpa, and so I put that on the wall. Right. And so when I start to freak out about working out, I'm like, I don't know where I'm really struggling with the diet side of this. But my why is because I want to be a grandpa. And so that puts me back to like, okay, I I got purpose. And so I say that in downsizing as well. Like it's really important for you to be ready. Like what is your why? Like what is your goal? And what are you going to do here? Because if it's to like move your mother-in-law in here to have, have them close to your kids, like a lot of times it's, or you want freedom. With my mom just moved, she wants to be able to still live on her own. And I was like, great, you want to be in control, you want to have freedom. So every time she would quit, I say, look, you want freedom. And the only way to get freedom is just keep working. And so basically I want that destination, the finish line, and the why. The why is because that keeps us going when it gets hard.
Right. And this is exactly what I was saying before about applying this to other things in life. This isn't just, organizing your bookshelf. This is like, you can apply this to losing weight or getting into shape.
Whatever. Yeah. Look, I watch Gary Vee. Although if you watch Gary Vee, he's a modern day motivational speaker.
No, I'm not sure.
Oh, dude, you'll love him. He's a dick.
Yeah.
But he's fine. He's fine. He's like Tony Robbins, but he like cusses nonstop.
I gotta check this out.
And he's called Gary Vee, Garyvee, and he's business wise, he's brilliant. He's a hustler, and he just tells her, he's like, dude, you're out driving a Mercedes, and I'm packing wine to sell wine. And he's like he doesn't care what the product is. He's just trying to flip stuff and hustle. And the guy, he has a huge agency now. He does really, really well. I'm sure he's a couple hundred millionaire now, but he really pushes the same thing. It's just like, dude, like you it's all choices. Like you can choose to be happy, you can choose to be angry. And like I listen to that kind of stuff, and I was like, well, man, that's everywhere we go. And I tell people all the time, like, in my downside of decluttering, there's 100 reasons to quit. Like you just got to choose not to quit. And so I try to put a lot of these tools in there to keep us focused. Right. And so I guess we could. I would love for it to be life tools if someone will listen to them. But at the end of the day, I just want you to keep going. So you get, so many people now just complain about not having the life that they want. And so many of my clients, from hoarding to downsizing, same thing. They would just blame the stuff, or they blame something that bad that happened in their life. And I'm like, that's all true. It's all accurate. But at what point are you just going to take charge?
Right.
And I think that's in this book. It really pushes you to say, hey, man, this is on you. Like you can, yes, all those things that hurt you are real. But like at the end of the day, you still got to like get your life together so we can like live and have fun. Yeah. And, I'm 47 and I'm just starting to really enjoy life. And I think you're on that ride, right? Because I think you're just starting to like, it's really happening.
Things are starting to happen. Yeah. And I'm 40 now. And I totally agree with that. I still have a little ways to go, but
you always have. If you don't have a way, if you're at the finish line, my old track coach used to tell me, he goes, if you're not nervous at the starting line, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
He goes, even the guy at the Olympics is nervous.
That's so true.
He said, because you're taking it seriously. He goes, if you're not nervous, then someone's gonna beat you.
It's so true. And I'm nervous all the time. I'm nervous with people that like I've had on before. I've had you on before. I know you're the great guy. You're really cool. There's not going to be any problems.
Know that at the time.
And no, but my point is like, even today, I like had a little, I was a little nervous and, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
I had to have my, my mentor, like a guy that I looked up to when I was a kid on TV. This guy named Peter Walsh. He had a house called, it was a Clean House, or he was Oprah's organizing guy. So when I was like 25, I thought this guy was God, right? And I got to meet him 10 years ago, and we like started talking, and he's a nice guy, and he ended up like, I used to read his books, right? And now like he'll text me, like, which is crazy, and and like the other day I had to ask him to write a blurb for my book, and I was scared. I was so nervous, man. So nervous. It took me like a week. It took me like a week to write the email because I was so afraid he would say no. And, of course, he was like, sure, man. Like, just, send it to me. I'd love to look at it. And he wrote me this wonderful review. And, like, I'm a grown man. I'm 47. Like, I think I can do anything, really. But I was scared to death of that. Because I don't know why. Because some stranger that I really don't even know that well. But he's a good dude. But it still scared me to death.
Yeah.
And,
no,
so I think you can take that to declutter. Like, so many people are afraid of, like, I don't know, afraid of failing or what, but like, at the end of the day, man, just go do it. Like, go try and see what happens.
100%. And that's kind of my attitude now, is that instead of essentially doing something that I want to do and then thinking it's not good enough and doubting myself and scrapping it, those days are over. Like, I put out what I put out now, It may not all be amazing, but I just keep going.
Well, it's a numbers
instead of
game.
just self-doubting, Yeah.
My dad always said, he goes, unfortunately, this was not for business. This was for women. But he'd be like, dude, 99 girls are going to say no, right? And he goes, one's going to say yes. And he goes, you're not going to remember the other 99. And in hindsight, it's a horrible thing to tell a 15-year-old boy. But, like, he wasn't wrong, right? And, and it was just like, he goes, like, dude, you're not going to care. And he's like, but he's like, so every no, it just gets you closer to a yes. And he goes, look at it that way. Don't look at it like you're failing and you suck and you're awful. He goes, it really means you're getting closer.
Right.
And I've honestly taken that with business. I mean, I get, like when I pitched this show, Legacy List, like everybody said no. I mean, all the networks said no. Nobody wanted it. And then here we got nominated for an Emmy. Right. And it's like, but everyone said no. I always use the, shit, 6 people turned down Harry Potter. Six different publishing houses said, nah, it's not going to be anything, right? And she's the richest. That lady's now richer than the Queen of England.
Right.
And she was homeless when she wrote the first one.
Yep.
Like she did it at McDonald's or something. Like,
no, it's insane.
I mean, like, it's insane when you hear that story. Or like even Dr. Seuss. 126 companies turned down Dr. Seuss.
Yep.
And he's done okay. Right? So like, you just got to keep going, man.
That's
you
it.
You can't let it, you just got to keep hustling.
Same thing with like a lot of movies, like Nightmare on Elm Street and things like that. People, when they were first showing that around, people were like, what the hell is this garbage? And now Freddy Krueger is one of the biggest horror icons of all time. I mean, and that movie's grossed billions.
Billions. You watch that? I guess you watched that the movies that we love on Netflix.
Oh yeah, definitely,
dude. That one of all the Christmas ones are phenomenal. The Christmas movies, like Elf, like the story behind Elf, like it's a great story. I mean, but none of those stories are like all the movies on that. You'll be like, I love them all. They're so good,
right?
And every one of them's like almost didn't get made.
Yep.
Like Home Alone ran out of money and got canceled.
Right.
And it's grossed over $1 billion. That franchise has.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Crazy.
It really is crazy. Yeah.
I love it.
You just gotta.
I mean, I keep swinging too. Like I hope that I think this book's gonna. I mean, this is when you do a lot of stuff, sometimes it's good, right? And I wrote this book and I was like, I think it's really good actually. And now that people are seeing it, people are buying it, people are reviewing it, and it's like it's coming back to me saying like, man, this book really helped me, and it's very related. They're like, I can read it, like it's actually like consumable.
Yes.
And it's not like you're yelling at me, which I love. And so I hope people, if you're listening and you just like, either you or someone in your family is struggling with stuff, like pick it up, or go to the library, man. Go to the library, check it out. I don't care. Like you don't have to buy it. Like literally, go check it out at the library. Libraries are great, and and then if you can't buy it and give it to someone else that can't afford it. But like my thing is like just give it a shot. Like, you probably read it in 2 days. I'm like you. I really struggle to read. Always have. I can look at it. I can read it, but the minute I look up. Like, I don't do commercials because I can't memorize lines. My brain doesn't work that way. And I'm horrible at it. And it's always hurt me professionally, but it is what it is.
I'm an audiobook guy. Like, if I want to really read a book, I'll buy the audio version. Are you going to do an audio version of this?
Yeah, man. I actually get to go record it next week. I'm going to go record it week after things. So this is getting recorded a couple days before. This is not February for anyone that's listening right now. But, I get to go record it. And I'm so nervous because I got to read the book out loud. And
you're gonna do great.
I'm so nervous, man. And I was like, when Audible called me, they're like, "Yeah, they actually interviewed other people as well, and so I had to interview. I had to actually try out to read my own audiobook.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So there were other people up for the running for my book, right? Better narrators, like actual professional narrators.
Wow.
And they were like, "Look, we read the book, Matt. Like, it's so passionate. Like, it's got to be you."
Yeah.
Right? But they couldn't pay me as much as they pay a professional narrator because I'm not a very good narrator. So if you're gonna buy the audiobook, I hope it's good, man. I haven't done it yet. I'm really, really nervous, but
I think you're gonna be great, and I think that's the best part of you is like you're you. You're not trying to be anybody else. It's you, and that's gonna be successful. And you don't.
Who I am, man.
I wouldn't want to listen to it if it was somebody else. To be honest with you.
I don't know if it would be any good. I mean,
like Samuel Jackson or something.
I don't know. Pick up your shit, motherfucker. I did have there's an old Jay Moore podcast where it was like Jay Moore's like 6. I don't know if you ever listened to Jay Moore. It was more stories.
Yeah.
he had me on. He was on Leno. That's how long ago this was. He was on Leno making fun of hoarders, and I was like, oh my god! I was sitting in my mom's basement. Like that's how poor I didn't even have a house yet. I was in my mom's basement. I'm watching Leno. They're talking about hoarders, and it was like third or fourth episode. And he's clearly making fun of me. So I go on Twitter and I reach out to him and I say, "Oh man, love your show." Blah 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 blah. By the next morning, I wake up. Everyone's like, "You got to have Paxton on. You got to have him." So he's like, "Hey, I'm in New York next week. Do you want to come up?" I'm like, "Sure." Yeah, I'm in New York all the time. Like acting like I'm really busy, you know. Right. And I had to like scratch enough money together to take a train to New York so I could be on this podcast. And he had asked me, he goes, "Do you have a podcast?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah." Of course I do. I didn't even know what a podcast was, you know. And so like I recorded a podcast that week on the road, and then like went in and figured out how to start one. Ended up plugging my podcast on Jay More Stories. But he basically did I was old Saturday Night Live. I loved old Saturday Night Live. So he basically did a skit of Norm Macdonald and Tracy Morgan in a hoarded home with me. And he's doing the voices of Tracy Morgan in a Hoarders. Wow. And it was the funniest damn thing I ever heard. And I was like standing next to him watching him do it. And it was unbelievable. And then we were in New York. This is how long ago it was. And this guy walks in. And I'm like, that guy looks familiar. And he's like, it's Jay. And I'm like, Jay? Who's Jay? Jason. It was Jason Mewes from Jay and Silent.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what? You know, he's like, yeah, they manage my podcast. I'm like, holy crap, man. I'm like, that guy, I was like, oh my God. You know, he just walked in the hotel room, did some things, walked out and left.
Yeah.
You know, in the middle of the podcast. And I'm like,
that's great.
What is going on, man? Like, it was crazy. Oh,
I'm a huge fan of those, Jay and Silent Bob and all that.
Well, Kevin, that's another great story, man. Like that. Talk about a guy that hustled and did it a different way.
Yeah.
And just, killed it professionally. Yeah. You know,
absolutely. Jay Moore, he was on Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah, 1 year.
And 1 year, but he was good though. He did like a Christopher Walken impersonation, if I remember correctly.
He does incredible,
and he killed it.
Impressions.
Yeah.
He did, but he was a dick. He knows it, and Jay's kind of the same thing. He does his own thing, man. Like he is who he is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always, people don't always love it, but the guy is insanely funny. And actually, incredible. He's been incredibly kind to me throughout my career. Always had me on when he got me on Stern, for God's sakes. Talk about a life-changing day. I got to do a 3-hour interview with Howard Stern. And like that, that was, no, not 1 hour, sorry, 1 hour interview. 3 hours. I did, then they got me on, I got on Joe Rogan. Right. And because of that, and that was a 3-hour interview, you know, and it was like,
Joe Rogan's always 3 hours.
Well, I got drunk and sobered up during that interview.
Wow.
That's how long that interview was.
Had lunch, dinner.
Dude, it was crazy. My agent passed out. If you look at the video, really, my agent is asleep on the couch.
Now, is it just you on that, or is it
no,
crew of hoarders?
Red Band, and Joe. And it's like almost 10 years old. It's a long time ago. And he just asked me a lot of questions. And it was really fascinating podcast. He's like him or not, he's a brilliant interviewer. And it's an old episode. It's in the hundreds. Like, that's how old it is.
Wow.
And I think they're in the thousands now.
Yeah.
And Joe's he's pretty straightforward. Like, I called a couple years ago trying to get back on. And he was like, you do anything really different than what you're doing then? I go, no. And he goes, we're good. We asked everything we needed to ask. And I was like, you know what? That's brutally honest. It's like, I appreciate it. You know, like, that's brutally honest feedback. You know?
Yeah. So now you're done with hoarders, right?
I'll do one. It looks like I'm going to do one a year. I think I'm going to keep going one a year.
That's cool.
I missed this season, and they just signed up for a couple more seasons. Like, Hoarders keeps going. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I guess it's never going to stop. So I'm going to do one a year, and I needed a mental health break from that. Like, it just got, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and everyone makes fun of the word mental health break, but I really needed it. And
I
now I kind of miss it. I miss the cruise. I miss the challenge. You roll in and you're like, okay, I need 50 people for 5 days to knock this out.
Right.
And I miss the magnitude and the volume of that, and then the relief to see that person really see their lives change. Like, that's pretty cool. So I'm excited to get back. I'll do one. Looks like it's going to be February, March.
Okay.
So I'll do one, and then I go back out for season 4. a legacy list in the spring, and then we start going all over the country again. So when your listeners are listening to this, season 3 of Legacy List will be airing on around the country, and we really cool stuff. We got to go to New York City. We got to go to we got to go to Taos, New Mexico, one of the coolest towns I've ever been to.
Wow.
Fascinating history there, and just finding really cool stuff in people's attics and basements.
Yeah, now
that's the US, man.
That's on Monday nights, right?
Monday nights. It depends in the really each state. Their PBS is different, but most of us put us on Monday nights or Tuesday nights.
Okay.
But you can just go to mylegacylist.com. You can watch it there anytime, or you can watch it on just go on the PBS on demand and just say, honestly, just write Matt Paxton on your TV, and it'll come. Everything comes up. But it's pretty cool. But yeah, no, everything's good, man. New book, new show, and honestly, a new life in Georgia. And it all happened because I got rid of all my stuff, which is crazy to think.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I'm so happy for you. That's
thank you, dude.
That's like everything coming to fruition, like that you worked for,
20 year night overnight success. People always say, like, yeah, you're so lucky, and I'm like, yeah, I'm really lucky. I mean, it's just 20 years of very intentional hard work behind that. But yeah, I'll take it. Luck.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the past few years for me have just been like crazy amounts of work. I do more and more now. Like, I have 3 radio shows. I have DJing. I have I'm actually producing a track with somebody. I'm making a music video for Fences.
Yeah, dude. Fences, dude. He called me up on his wedding night, man. He's like, I need you to send me a video to my wife. I'm like,
oh, no way.
Yeah. He sent me a message.
Oh, he told me that. Yeah.
I never do that stuff. And I was like, oh, screw it. It's his wedding night. I got to do it.
Yeah.
And so I sent her a message, and I was like, I feel bad sending your wife a message on your wedding night. And he was like, that dude is a solid guy, man. Like, solid.
He really is.
I forgot that time, man. And he's honestly really talented.
Yeah, he was actually going to come on. He was going to come on the episode today. He was going to pop in, but he's sick. Yeah.
Next time he's doing something, ping me, and I'll try to show up sometime.
Yeah, we'll try to do it the other way. We do one called Chaos in the Garage. It's like, we just talk about absolute nonsense. It's just craziness, and I think he'd be a great fit for that. Maybe we'll get you.
He wrote me. That's how I met him. I don't think that's how I met him. He just randomly wrote me one night. He's like, "Hey," and I just, I get like 100 messages, but his face is his whole face is tattooed. Yeah, and so his screen image obviously grabbed me. So I was like, "Oh, who's this kid?" And I look at him, and he's like, "Hey, man, I need your voice for a track." And like, he didn't even like no pleasantries. Like, he just like, "Hey, I'm recording a really weird song. I need your voice." And I'm like, I'll bite. What do you do? Like, just making sure it's not like racist songs, Right. He's a good person. I'm like, shit, why not? Let's do this. Because you never know. He's one of those guys it's going to be, all right, I'm going to buckle up and watch. Right. I'm just going to see. I'm not going to hang on. I'm just going to see what he does, because it's going to be interesting.
It is. And like, I know we saw this last time, but I actually made a few upgrades to
look
him.
At that.
All right, so I handmade and painted this vest.
So are you doing Are you going to do like a animated video?
I wouldn't say it's animated. He's gonna be still, but it's gonna be insinuated that he's living. Yeah, he's gonna be in different places in the house and stuff like that.
All right, I'm interested.
I've already made one, but it wasn't good enough for me. And I just said, I'm contradicting myself, because I just said I don't throw anything out, but I want to make it better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there you go. If you're, we'll end on that. I think it's important to just keep trying. Like, here I am. I got, finally had a hit show, and then it was like, all right, do I really want to write a book? And then I was like, if I'm going to write it, it's going to be the best book I've written. And it is. It's like the best thing I've done. And so I hope your viewers, I hope first you got motivated. I always come on your podcast, because it's really, to me, it's a podcast about motivation. Yeah. Right. And getting jazzed up and get excited. So I hope people are motivated first in whatever you're doing. I don't care if it's downsizing or decluttering or whatever in life. I hope you're motivated. I hope you say, all right, I can do more. I can do better. And then if you're dealing with your decluttering or any of your stuff, check out the book. I think you'll find it interesting. And I know I'll be back on again, so I think let's do viewer questions next time. I think that's fine.
That sounds like a great idea. And that is kind of what the show is about. Like, it's just two people talking, but I'm always talking to people who do interesting things, something that people think outside of the box, or do something that's not the ordinary 9 to 5 kind of thing. And that's the idea of it, is if you want to dream about doing something,
Yeah.
just do it, you know?
I was trying, I think last time I tried to get rich a lot. I always failed. And then I just started helping people clean their houses. And
Yeah.
it turns out now, 20 years later, I am the best in the world at that.
Yeah.
And that's a cool feeling, you know, like I love knowing that, like, I'm the best at cleaning up a hoarded home. I'm the best at cleaning up an attic. That sounds crazy, but like, I'm really good at it. And I love that people around the world, like, will call me with a question about that. And the funny thing is, people don't really know that this is a thing yet, right? Like, that you really need help on this, because the majority of the world hasn't gone through it yet. And grandkids used to just do it for free. And that doesn't happen anymore. And so, like, it's funny, like, I know I made a very conscious decision to put my flag on the ground and be the best at this. It just took me 20 years to prove it.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm there. And so I think if the listeners hear that, like,
yeah,
it is not overnight, dude. Like,
it's not overnight, but you got to be consistent, you know?
Yeah.
Or persistent.
I remember one year I spent an entire November and like the first 2 weeks of December at 2 houses in Cincinnati. Like, I ate chili for 6 weeks straight, right? We were cleaning 12 hours a day. And it was these 2 massive houses that were filled literally to the roof. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know, I didn't even make that much money at the end of it. Basically, after I paid everybody. But we kept working for 6 weeks. And I remember thinking, like, God, is this all my life's going to be? Really? Like, just cleaning houses, you know? And then I was like, well, there's a purpose. Like, there's a point somewhere here, and I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And like, I told that story the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, this was just supposed to be a story 10 years later. And I didn't know that, right? Like, we were there so long that honest to God, we went to BW3's for dinner one night, and we couldn't get waited on. The wait staff wouldn't talk to us. And I looked at one of my guys, I had 8 guys there with me for like 6 weeks, and I was like, why do these waitresses all hate us? And they're like, oh man, we've already all dated all these girls. We've been in this town too long. Like, we've all dated these girls. And I was like, we got to get out of here, man. This is too long in Cincinnati. We couldn't even get chicken wings, man. We've been in this town too long. But like, you know, like, that's at the end of the game. That's the story, right? Like, that's why we were there. And it's just, you just got to keep hustling, man. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't.
That's it.
Maybe you get lucky enough to write a book, you know, and tell all those crazy stories.
Yeah.
So hey, that is the point of this book, by the way. The punchline of the book is tell the stories. Like, get out there, like, when you're with your grandparents or your kid, like, get them to tell you your stories. Ask them questions, or if you're the older person, tell the stories, because the stories is what, 1, makes it fun, and 2, makes the stuff actually valuable. This stuff's just stuff. It's not really a whole lot of financial value.
Right.
It's the emotional value that makes it cool. And so, like, really encourage people to tell the stories, and that's what you'll really get out of the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually meant to ask that before when we first got on, is how do you separate the item from, you know, the memory attached to it?
Well, I take a picture of the item. That sounds silly, but honestly, like, I don't need stuff anymore. So I take pictures of it, and then I tell the story. I either document it via video, audio, or handwriting it. But at the end of the day, you really, really need to tell that story. You
know, essentially, that's what we do with everything, right? All of our music's in a phone now. There's no more CDs, you know, unless you're like a vinyl collector or something. Even movies are in your phone. You don't have to collect you don't have to have the stuff.
Dude, I took a crate of, when I went to college, I could only fill up my Honda Accord, right? 84 Honda Accord. I could only fill up the back seat. And I took a crate of records and a stereo, like, thing, and I laugh. And now the kids just take their cell phone. It's all right there. Yeah. You know, and like, but we always fill the car. You know, you fill the space you have, and with something. You know, and so just, you know, I hope people will find it and just, you know, stuff in what matters. The people behind it. It's the stories. And so I tell, and just, it's really, again, preach, just tell the stories, because you will find that when you hear the stories, the items, either you decide you do want the items and you're gonna get rid of other stuff to keep it, or you're just gonna decide, you know, I don't really need this item. I'm gonna give it to someone else that really can use it.
Sure.
And you still have the story, because you take the picture and you. I mean, my phone is filled with pictures of cool stuff. That I just found, and then I'm like, oh yeah, when I need to tell a story, I find the picture. I'm like, oh, here it is. Look,
right,
here it is.
Right.
You know, it's really, really cool.
Matt, it was a pleasure having you on again.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. We'll go for 3. Let's go 6 months. We'll go for number 3, man.
Thanks for seeking me out. Actually, you know, I really appreciate that. That was a really cool moment for me.
Well, I was laughing. I was like, he is gonna love that someone from Penguin Random House writes him. Yes. You know, like my PR.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Like, oh my God, I made it! Like, an actual publicist is writing me.
Yes, and then sometimes I'm like, oh man, is the name like a turnoff? You know, for certain people. It seems to work. It seems to work fine.
It's funny. It never came up actually. I mean, I've been in these PR meetings and people are going through all the podcasts I'm be on, and they're like, "Hell, fucking yeah!" They're like, "That sounds cool." I'm like, "Yeah, he's a good guy. Check him out." Like, and I'm on the phone with like, it was like the PR person from AARP, PR person from PBS, from Penguin Random House, and from Goodwill. Like those are the four. It was like 8 people that run PR. And everybody was like, "Hell, fucking yeah, all right." Okay. But no one was like, "Don't do it." Like everybody was just like, "All right, whatever." Positivity, dude. Positivity is gonna win. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, that's what I've learned in the last 5 years. Positivity will win, and we just got to keep walking towards it.
That's it, Matt. It was an absolute pleasure. Everyone, get the book. February 8th, right?
Yeah, February 8th. Keep the memories, lose the stuff. I promise you, your life will not suck if you read it.
I totally agree. It's an amazing book. And Matt, I'll see you again.
Thanks, dude.
All right.
All right, man. See you soon.